everyone, and welcome to a new season of the Unknown Draft League. Now, it has been quite a while since I've uploaded, and in that time, I have taken a deep reflection on my style of team building for Pokemon Draft Leagues. And with the new way that UDL is doing their formats for this season, I think it's going to be a very good way to test what I have thought about. Now, you might be wondering, what have I thought about? Well, it has to do with the shakeup done in this season. For Season 5, we are removing ourselves from the tier system. Before, we had tiers from A to untiered, or A to E, sorry. S plus to E, that all Pokemon were formulated into. Well, instead of tiers, we have point brackets now, where Pokemon could cost as little as 5 points or as high as 100 points. And we have a point value of 575 points that we have available to ourselves. There are no more free agents. In the previous seasons of UDL, we'd have 4 free agent slots out of 11 Pokemon. Now you can trade back any of your Pokemon to the board. It doesn't matter what. All that matters is that the point limit doesn't break. And you only have 5 trades this season. And once you've done those 5 trades, you can't trade. So it's a little more stingy compared to previous seasons of UDL. But with that in mind, there are a total of, I think at the time of recording this now, actually 20 teams. Because we did have a person volunteer to join the team season late, as we only had 19 coaches at first. Now, the unique thing that UDL does, because there are so many coaches that try to apply for the season, is that we are split into 2 brackets. So, what that means, for those unaware, is you can have 2 Fluttermanes, 2 Buldangos, 2 Regidragos, because you have 10 coaches in one pool and 10 coaches in the other. With that in mind, I was in Pool A and managed to have 2nd overall pick, which gave me a lot of options for what I wanted to choose as my first Pokemon. And I decided to go with Thundurus Incarnate for 70 points as my first Pokemon. Thundurus Incarnate is probably the fast electric type Pokemon. While it's not the fastest Pokemon, it's got fastest electric type at only base 111 speed, which saying only is weird, right? Because modern Pokemon is so speed creeped. But because of its Prankster ability, it can send out any and all status moves with priority, including stuff like Thunder Wave, Electric Terrain, Rain Dance, Eerie Impulse. Thundurus is a great supportive Pokemon that, if I want to, can be a very strong offensive Pokemon, as well as it used to be ran before the supportive Thundurus archetype was discovered. And for that to work, I need a Rain mode, right? Because I'd want to be able to, if I want to run off Thundurus in a more offensive manner, I need a Rain team. So I started looking at options at that. Well, truth to be told, actually, my first options I was looking at was a double Genie team with Thundurus Incarnate and Landorus Incarnate. However, Landorus got sniped. Yeah, so no double Genie play for me. I could have gone Tornadus, but I would have wanted the more offensive Genie as the partner for Thundurus. Which left me looking at options, and by options I mean I DM'd Sophie, or as everyone would know as Lime, and asked her, "Hey, my plan's been sniped. What do I do?" And she was like, "Well, it's still on the board. Why not grab our Chaludon?" And our Chaludon gives me PTSD. Archaludon is one of those Pokemon that I have always had struggle facing. Either it be free-for-alls, draft league, ladder. This thing is a monster. And it's not slow. No. It's got base 85 speed. This thing is speed tied with Suicune. So, Archaludon provides scary offense for our Rain Core. But I need a little bit more than Thunderous setting up Ring Dance during the turn if I want a more, even scarier Rain Core. Which is why my third round pick was Politoed. Now, Politoed isn't all that offensive. It's got alright offenses, but it's mostly known for setting up rain, having Perish Song, and maybe running Scarf Muddy Water. Not much else is known about Politoed, but having access to that automatic rain is going to make this Rain Core for the team look so much scarier. Now that we had those three Pokemon, though, I needed to look at, not just synergies with other Pokemon, but I wanted to look for some wildcard options, right? Because the Rain Core is all nice and dandy if it wasn't the only thing I had, right? Because if I'm going to only be running Rain every week from week to week, my opponents know what to bring. Whoops, I went back to Archaludon. So, with that in mind, I'm looking over the draft board and thinking, what is the ultimate wild card? Something that when you see it in prep, you have to respect, but at the same time, you have no idea if it's going to show up or not. And more importantly, how is it going to show up? Is it going to be Scarf? Is it going to be bulky? Because no matter what, Regidrago is going to hit you with a Dragon's Maw. A Dragon's Energy. Dragon's Maw boosted Dragon's Energy. And it is going to hurt. But now, we have our wild card. Regidrago's purpose on this team is to just show up unexpectedly. And that's kind of hard to do on a draft team, I should preface. However, if you're expecting rain, and then Regidrago hits the field, what do? So, it's also just a very bulky Pokemon in general. Like, even if I don't use it for Dragon's Maw, I'm pretty sure I could still just use this to just soak hits up for my other offensive Pokemon. But we can't rely on that, can we? So, hold on. What would be my next pick then, right? So we got our wild card. And we have a bit of a pretty strong rain mode at the moment. But what if I went back into the rain mode a bit? We grabbed Suicune. You might be thinking, what? Why Suicune? You already have a pure water type. But Suicune provides something that I think the team can use. Now, we have Thunderous, which is a flying type. Yes. However, it doesn't get access to Tailwind. Only Thunder Wave is its form of speed control. So I need something that can use Tailwind. And preferably I'd want it to be something fairly bulky. Suicune serves that purpose. It has Tailwind. It is bulky. And due to it being a water type, even though it doesn't have Swift Swim, it does benefit from the rain mode. Being able to throw off, what's it called? Rain boosted surfs, rain boosted hydro pumps, rain boosted muddy waters. Those kind of things. So Suicune, I think, makes a pretty decent addition to the team. This is probably the Pokemon with the least value, I think, in comparison to the other Pokemon on this team. Like, yes, Suicune brings Tailwind. And yes, it can interact with the water, with the rain mode. But compared to our other Pokemon, I think this Suicune provides the least amount of interesting value. Which I can't say the same for our next pick. Our next pick was Magmar. Fun fact! I wanted Magmortar! Magmortar would have been perfect for this team. Yes, it does have Follow Me just like Magmar. However, it's more offensive than Magmar. Only by a little bit, though, so not by much. But I really wanted an offensive fire type for this team, which Magmar would have been able to do, as well as providing redirection for things like the Regidrago. Sorry, I blanked there for a moment. Alright! Someone sniped him! On the same turn I wanted to pick him up. So we went with Magmar instead. Magmar, unfortunately, lacks the raw offensive pressure that Magmortar might provide. However, it does make up for it by being bulkier and still having access to Follow Me. So we take that, I suppose. We're not done with the support spell! I grabbed Grimmsnarl next. I don't know why this PNG is so blurry, but we're gonna roll with it. Grimmsnarl provides an interesting answer to a bit of a problem that my team has. We have a bit of a 4-move slot syndrome with Thundurus. If it wants to run support, it can't be offensive. And if it wants to be offensive, it can't run support. But also, there are some support moves that it just can't fit into a full roster for its move slot. Grimmsnarl as a secondary prankster Pokemon, besides giving us a fairy type to lock in our fantasy core of Fairy Dragon and Steel, it provides stuff like screens, prankster Thunder Wave as well. And just, like, also it has Fairy Stab, which Terra Dark would be a decent way of trying to avoid getting hit by prankster shenanigans, but now you're gonna get hit by a super effective Spirit Break. And we also have Parting Shot to lower stats on my opponent's team, which is why I think Grimmsnarl is a good Pokemon for us to grab, in combination with our offensive Pokemon so far, and offensive Pokemon that we're gonna grab later. Speaking of offensive Pokemon, Overquill, this late into the draft, is our Swift Swim Pokemon. I know, a rain team that waits 4 rounds after drafting your rain mode to draft the Swift Swimmer. However, Overquill is able to provide Intimidate for the team, something that the team desperately needed, as well as providing Poison Stab for all the potential Terra Fairies. Because, right, we have our Chaladon, we have Regidrago. Those are 2 Pokemon that a Fairy Stab would be, Fairy Terra would be decent for. Well, not really our Chaladon, because you're gonna get hit by Flash Cannon then. But for Regidrago, Terra Fairy would be very good. But then you have Overquill, who can hit you for a super effective Poison Jab and likely kill you, because Overquill is actually really well offensively based. But we could also run stuff like Swords Dance on Overquill next to Magmar, and then switch Magmar out into Politoed. You get the vision, right? You get the vision. Now, when I originally designed this team, I wanted at least one future Paradox Pokemon for this team. And before you get any ideas, Henry, I'm looking at you, because I know you watch my videos. This team will look very familiar to one of your previous draft teams, but I swear it's a coincidence, because I didn't want Magmar. We draft Iron Leaves. Iron Leaves finishes off our Firewater Grass Core, as well as providing an offensive Pokemon taking advantage of electric terrain potentially set by Thundurus. It is also good coverage for the, let me bring it up real quick, the ground types that would want to take advantage of our several ground weaknesses. It is also just good for the fighting that would want to be used for, I don't know, like our Chaladon. Because there's only two things that our Chaladon is weak to. Ground and fighting. And Virizion covers both of those. Granted, Iron Leaves... Did I say Virizion at one point? I think I did. Iron Leaves is a bit of a Terra Hog. Its typing of Grass Psychic is not great, leaving it with 5 2x resist weaknesses and 1 4x weakness. So this thing's gonna be a Terra Hog. Full stop. However, it provides a lot of offensive pressure that I think the team was missing. Aside from the special pressure from Thundurus, Regidrago, and Archaludon, Iron Leaves and Overquill provide physical offense that the team needed. But I'm sure eagle-eyed viewers are paying attention to my point count. I have 5 points left! What can I possibly grab at 5 points? If I was keeping track, we are actually at 10 Pokemon. 9 Pokemon right now. Yeah, 9 Pokemon. So, although we could stop the draft here at 9 Pokemon, I do want to have a 10th Pokemon just for like a bit of more flexibility in team building. Because again, with this league, with this season, we could stop at 9 Pokemon. So, I actually decided that I needed to cover a bit more of my ground weakness. There's something... And also my ice weakness, because Thundurus, Regidrago, and Iron Leaves are all weak to ice. So preferably, for 5 points, I'd want to grab something that is able to resist ice and be super effective in the ground. That means I have to grab an ice type. But ice types are weak to ground. So what do I grab, right? Well, there is one ice type that's only worth 5 points that could provide some value for that. And that ice type would be Cryogonal, making its grand return from my first ever draft league on the channel, Unknown Draft League Season 2. It comes back in Unknown Draft League Season 5. But yeah, Cryogonal isn't really much more than a budget pick. It gives me another way to hit ground types for super effective damage, while at the same time being immune to ground types due to Levitate. It also, like I said, resists the ice Pokemon that I'm a bit worried about. And actually has another synergy that I actually found out due to something my week one opponent mentioned. See, if you remember, one of the scary things about Archaludon is it has Stamina. And Stamina boosts your defense stats every time you get hit. Now, normally, you could... Archaludon could cheese this by using a Pokemon that has Beat Up next to it. But something that also works entirely the exact same way, although it's not resisted, at least I don't think it's resisted by Archaludon. Let me double check. Yeah, normally you'd like Beat Up. Beat Up's not resisted either. I guess like, I don't know, Tail Swap or something. Point being, I am getting off track. Cryogonal has one of those moves in Icicle Spear. So Cryogonal could boost up Archaludon's stamina, should I want to use that for a game. Now, this is just a threat I'm holding over my opponent's head. Maybe I'll bring it? Who knows? It could happen anytime, or not at all. I thank you all for watching this season's breakdown of my team. I will leave the UDL Season 5 doc in the description for if anyone wants to view the rosters of the other coaches. I thank you all for watching, and I will see you when we get into Week 1. Peace.